Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are coming from you live from Cologne. Welcome to NICA Live. My name is Veronika Morscher. I am a singer and songwriter from Austria, and I have been living in Cologne and have been part of this lovely scene for about 5 years. I am your host for tonight's show, and we have a very lovely show planned for you. It consists of two fantastic duo formations. We are coming from you live from the Green Room. The Green Room is a venue at the Stadtgarten. Since last week, at least in this part of Germany, it is allowed again to have live concerts, which are open air with a maximum of 100 people. So the Stadtgarten, as a venue in the center of Cologne, has decided to put on an open air venue. And and the hosting of the show online is still happening in English because we know it's hard to travel and we know that the borders are still closed. So we would like to welcome any listeners who are, not speaking German or not understanding German and who are outside of Germany to join us tonight for this concert. And before I came on screen, you were hearing a little bit of music from the Pablo Held trio. Pablo Held is one of the NICA artists. The NICA artists curate the series NICA Live or NICA Presents, which tonight's concert is one of those concert evenings of that series. The music that you've heard in the very beginning, as a side note, was just recently released. It's Pablo Held Trio's latest record. It was released in February, so if you are interested in listening more, you can find it on Bandcamp. Why I'm talking about Pablo Held is because he also invited the first duo of tonight's show. It's Kristina Shamgunova on saxophone and Jonas Kaltenbach on drums. And the second duo was invited by another NICA artist, Pablo Giw. I should mention the other two NICA artists in residence, Tamara Lukasheva and Elisabeth Coudoux. So all of them kind of invite different artists to play on the online and live concerts. And the second duo of tonight's show is Akiko Ahrendt on violin and Florian Zwißler on the analog synthesizer. So before we move on to hearing live music with a real live audience, actually it's happening right now in Cologne, unbelievably, I got to talk to Jonas and Kristina on Tuesday and just wanted to ask them how they were managing the time during the Corona shutdown and how they managed, to stay in contact with their music and their instrument. So have a look at the interview I did with them. So welcome Jonas Kaltenbach and Kristina Shamgunova. You have spent this time during the pandemic in Mannheim, Kristina in Mannheim and Jonas in Cologne, or a little bit outside of Cologne. And Jonas, I know that you were, before the pandemic broke out, you were quite busy trying to organize a lot of sessions, regular sessions with musicians from the Cologne scene, but also connecting them with musicians that you know from other scenes. And I'm just wondering, has this all been put on hold, or have you managed to find a way to connect with people still?
So far, it's put on hold completely. I think in the last 2 months, I didn't organize one more session or gig for the future because I don't know when it will start again.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a flat mate who's a piano player, and we do some organ and drum sessions sometimes. So I'm not completely out of playing with people, but it's very, very less than it was before.
Okay. Have you both found it more difficult to stay in contact with your instrument during this time, or easier?
I think in the first few days I didn't play, and then I started to practice a little bit again. So what I really liked is because I cannot rehearse anywhere. I was playing a lot outside, so I live close by the river, so I would just practice outside.
Was it easier because it's, a lot of the life gets a lot slower in general, when we're not traveling and there's no concerts and nothing really to prepare for? Do you feel it's easier to stay in contact with playing, or is it the same for you?
I think it's really hard when there's not so much jam sessions and jams, private jams. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to motivate yourself to practice when there's no live concerts.
Yeah. What is so special to play in front of a live audience again? After such a long time of, knowing that there won't be a concert, and now you get to play in front of people again.
I think when you play in front of a live audience, then there's a different type of concentration and a different type of excitement. So that you don't really get even if you jam privately. I guess you want to play well, but somehow it's much easier with an audience.
Mm-hmm. And how did you two meet? How, when or where or how did you meet so that you were playing this duo concert on Thursday?
We know from Mannheim. Before I moved to Cologne, I studied in Mannheim 2 years, and I think Kristina already studied there too. Maybe or not.
But I don't think so.
But maybe we met already at jam sessions at the Alte Feuerwache. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the flat that Kristina lives in now was my flat too when I
Okay, cool.
Some other musicians.
So one last question, maybe: how did you construct the music for the set on Thursday?
We loosely agreed on a few songs that we could play, and I think we're going to just improvise the connections and see while we play which songs we feel like playing.
Yeah, I'm really looking. Yeah,
play in the duo yet, so.
So premiere.
We are
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Don't really know yet what it will sound like.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited for you both. I'll be looking forward to hearing your concert on Thursday. And safe travels to Cologne, Kristina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Bye.
So this was a little snippet of the interview that I did with them. And because this interview was pre-recorded, you're not going to be able to ask the musicians questions directly, but you can leave comments on Facebook or on the Culture Stream website, and I can try and answer them for you. Now coming live from the Green Room in Cologne is Kristina Shamgunova on saxophone and Jonas Kaltenbach on drums. Enjoy. So that was a little snippet of the concert that is happening right now in Cologne in the Green Room at Stadtgarten. This was Kristina Shamgunova and Jonas Kaltenbach. If you would like to donate to the Cologne music scene, there are ways to do that. If you are on Facebook, hop over to the Culture Stream website. The website domain is called www.culture-stream.cologne, and there you can donate. Everyone is very thankful for anything that you can give. So before I am going to introduce the second duo of the night, I would like to share with you a little snippet of the interview that I did with the managing director of the IMC in Dublin, which stands for Improvised Music Company. And he is also the director of the 12 Points Festival. His name is Kenneth Killeen, and I got to talk to him on Wednesday a little bit about the situation in Ireland during the Corona lockdown and how his company is helping Irish musicians just to, support them and cope a little better. So, let's watch that interview. Hi, Kenneth Killeen. I'm very happy that you are joining me today for an interview live from Dublin.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. So you are the managing director of the IMC in Dublin. So you are planning a lot of concerts, you're involved with a lot of artists. How are the restrictions in Ireland at the moment?
It's interesting because every country appears to be taking their own steps, towards a gradual reopening. It's great to hear that about Germany. Ireland is a little bit different, actually, because our government just a few weeks ago announced a 5-phase reopening, and this is across all things, retail and commercial and cultural, and of course, as we know, the cultural industry is kind of one of the last things to maybe get up and running in the broadest sense. So the way it stands right now, we're in phase 2 of a 5-phase reopening, and things are still extremely quite limited. People can't travel more than 20 kilometers from their house, for example. So, this makes the potential to do anything meaningful quite a problem. And our restaurants should open around the end of July. But the pubs and clubs and venues and things like that, they won't open as it currently stands. They won't open until August the 10th. So that's quite some time away. And of course, a lot of our industry is quite reliant on these venues.
The managing director of the IMC in Dublin stands for Improvised Music Company. For any viewers that don't know much about it, can you just explain a little bit about the concept and about its artists?
Sure. So IMC, or Improvised Music Company, we are an events and resource organization, national, established by jazz musicians and supporters back in 1991. So we're a not-for-profit cultural organization. We're funded in part by the Irish Arts Council, a department of government, and our role is to support the presentation and development of jazz and creative music and its practitioners in Ireland and abroad. So, what we do is we curate and produce festivals and club shows. We work with artists in developing their careers. We provide resources, whatever we can. And we create, projects, be that sort of commissioning work or, as is the case now because we can't do live concerts, but we're always looking to support artists in any way that we can. And this music is all about collaboration. So we like to just keep a kind of a close eye on the current pulse of, what's happening both domestically and internationally and try and plug artists into that environment.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of connecting and kind of doing it digitally, reaching out, the IMC has decided to put on like a new online format. It's called Piece by Piece. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
With Piece by Piece, we wanted to highlight one of the things that makes our music special, and that is this idea of spontaneous composition or improvisation. This is, for me, you know, when I think of this paradigm of online music making and online presentation, I look to what is the unique selling point of this, and for me, improvisation is the ace up our sleeve with regard to this, because when it came to, you know, supporting artists to make new work and knowing that artists were being locked down in their own homes, you know, we decided to focus on solo artists, and then we said we'd commission these artists to write work. And I suppose so the first thing is that we were, you know, liaising and working with artists to make new material. But then we were thinking, okay, so how do we join this together? How do we make this a narrative that actually means something? Because when it comes to creating something that is representative of this time, our time, but you want it to kind of fit also into, like, would this work in a non-COVID world? Like, would this be an idea that lives on its own, or is it just another thing, right? So we decided to use the online medium as best we could to have the artists create solo work from their homes, based on the work of the preceding week. So they would take the work of the previous week's artists and use that as a kind of a communal, you know, co-collaboration to take the ideas. It could be anything. It could be musical notes, as was sometimes the case. It could be concepts in terms of textures. So we wanted this thing where the artists are obviously isolated, but they're not isolated because they have this understanding that we're creating a piece each week that is kind of part of something that will be the whole at the end of it all, but also being uniquely expressive to what these artists are doing. So, you know, we're going into week 7 now, which is this Friday, and then the final week. But everybody can go back and look at the previous week's work. And
another question, because you're also the director of the festival 12 Points. For those who don't know about 12 Points, can you just explain the concept of this festival, because it's so special?
Yeah, so I mean, 12 Points presents 12, you know, innovative, emerging European jazz acts every year, with one band per country. Each year we do an open call across Europe for, you know, innovators in this music, and then we have this difficult task of just picking 12 from 12 different countries to kind of represent the current pulse of music, or the identity of music, or jazz music and creative improvised music in any given year. So it's a kind of a European showcase of this talent, and it's been running now since 2007. We have a large invitation program of programmers from around Europe, and you know, they come and they check out the bands, and, you know, hopefully they book 3 or 4 bands, and for the most part they do. So that's great.
And it takes place in different parts of Europe.
Yeah, so I mean, it started in Dublin on home soil in 2007, and then in 2010 we kind of, a lot of people were saying, oh, can we host 12 Points? Can we become a partner? You know, and it's a big undertaking. So in 2010 we did our first abroad or away edition in Stavanger in Norway, and then every second year since then we have moved to a different European city, always coming back to Dublin, you know, in the, I guess, the even years, and then in the odd years we go to other cities, because it's a pan-European festival. I mean, it represents Europe in so many ways.
So since it's 2020, it would take place in Ireland in the beginning of October of this year. How is the COVID-19 getting in the way of the planning, or are there any, you know, adjustments made already?
I mean, you know, it's quite a huge problem, because the timing of the festival is at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty. With any international festival, there are a lot of variables. You know, there are a lot of these variables, such as, you know, travel restrictions or travel costs, and then accommodation, and you know, 12 Points, we encourage the artists to stay for multiple days, because we want them to be fully immersed in this kind of, these conversations about like listening to other musicians and, talking directly with the programmers and no barriers and, all of that stuff. And that costs a lot of money because, there's multiple nights accommodation and things like that. So we've each of those variables that under normal circumstances would be, the normal challenge have become a very different challenge now. And it's based around uncertainty at the moment because, we know that, every country has different levels of easing of restrictions, but that we also know that there might be some localized flare-ups of this crisis with regard to, localized outbreaks, which could affect travel. So, if it was a local festival, all those problems go away, right? But because it's so fundamentally hardwired into 11 other countries coming to Ireland, it makes it extremely challenging to make a call on whether it may or may not, go ahead this year. Of course, we would be devastated if it didn't. But the good thing about 12 Points is it's as a kind of a identity. It's kind of well established now. So if we had to take a pause for a year, I don't think it would have a detrimental effect, and we would host it in Dublin in 2021. But these are all, as of today, it's up in the air.
Okay. So we're all hoping for 12 Points to take place, but we'll have to see, I guess. And for now, thank you so much, and all the best to Ireland.
Thank you. Thanks a million. Thank you.
So this was Kenneth Killeen from Dublin, and we're now live again. I'm just seeing online that people are craving the live music. I can absolutely understand it. This online format is a little bit more of a live magazine, like a music magazine. So we want to introduce the musicians to you, interview them, and show little snippets of the live concert, which is happening at in the Green Room in Cologne as an open-air concert. So before we show the music of the next duo, I also got to talk to them on Tuesday about their approach to music and their idea of sound. And so this now is Akiko Ahrendt on violin for you and Florian Zwißler on the analog synthesizer. And yeah, there's a little snippet of the interview that I did with them. Hello and welcome, Akiko and Florian. You have just been rehearsing. You're in front of your rehearsal space.
Yes, exactly. Right. It's there.
So we've all been, waiting out this global pandemic crisis, and everything's been turned upside down. I'm wondering how this break from normality has been for you both.
It's interesting because actually we went through the beginning of the crisis together. We were on a project in Essen on Zollverein, exactly, and it was just those days when the whole thing just turned upside down, as you said.
Yeah. Wow.
This is actually we're meeting for the first time since then.
And are you thinking about your music? Are you thinking about it in like fragments? Like, are there composed ideas, or is it all completely improvised?
Well, we had the rehearsal right now, and we spoke about a little structure.
With the modular synthesizer setup, you basically have to, probably have to improvise to some extent always.
Do you find that pandemic time, so where everything kind of stopped that we usually do, has that influenced your musical approach?
In fact, yeah, we had a lot of free time and no concerts, and I was personally also quite critical about the live streaming concerts, I have to say. So I'm very glad that this one is live, at least for some people.
Yeah.
And what I was missing in all the time, and also seeing some and listening to some live stream concerts, is actually like the real body and the feeling the presence, of course, of the audience, and feeling the presence of myself also being on stage. Yeah, somehow like the presence of the analog blood and flesh and body. And this is quite important for me. And I think this might have changed a bit also in the Corona times.
Mm.
Yeah.
I read a little bit about you two, and you seem extremely versatile individuals. I read that you studied in such different fields, you know, apart from performing music. Is it true that you studied philosophy a little bit? Yeah.
No,
Akiko, you as well, right?
Yes, well, some semester.
But also, so philology?
Exactly, linguistics. I spent 7 years at university first. So I did linguistics, philosophy, and musicology. I studied in Tübingen and Cologne, obviously. And then I graduated in Cologne, and then I went to Volkwang Hochschule in Essen.
To study the composition?
Electronic composition.
And Akiko, you studied new music and violin and media arts, or how would you?
Right now, still happening. So I'm at the Kunsthochschule für Medien here in Cologne. Yeah.
Do you draw inspiration from those fields, both of you?
Of course.
Definitely, yeah. And I think it's very good also to have like an open mind for for everything what's happening around music. I mean, the worst is that you just, I don't know, play your instrument and don't think about what's going on in the art world and also in the real world, like everyday world, I think. And yeah, I think it's very inspiring in a way also to meet artists from other fields, like, I don't know, filmmakers or installation artists, visual artists and stuff. Yeah, that's very inspiring. And also it's concretely, it gives opportunities also to work together and have collaborations.
Really interesting.
It's the same, because I've always enjoyed, or for me it seemed to be a vital thing, to not be confined to one area of discourse, right? And to be within different discourses all the time, and not to, just have a single perspective on things.
Yeah.
Also, for me, this whole electronic thing has a scientific background to it in a way, and at the moment I'm very lucky to also be back into science. I'm part of a scientific research project that is doing very basic work in terms of redefining terminology of electronic sound.
So, because you said it's sometimes easier to have, more fields of interest, especially in a time where the performing music aspect has been so limited all of a sudden, has this kind of kept you grounded or, sane, that you have some kind of other fields where you can explore in?
Yeah, for me it was actually, I'm right now working on a project, I'm making kind of a little film documentary in a occupied house. It's occupied by homeless people, and I think it's a very cool project. So yeah, and I'm a bit documenting this and making interviews, and yeah, this is the thing that I'm quite into right now. Yeah.
Okay, interesting, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I'm really looking forward to your concert on Thursday.
Oh yeah, so are we.
And
see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
So there you got a little introduction to Akiko Ahrendt and Florian Zwißler. Before we now tune in to their concert, which everyone has been waiting for, I am going to give a little preview of the next upcoming concerts at the Green Room in Stadtgarten. So if you really crave live music, which I would absolutely understand, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. is the singer-songwriter evening with Stud and Dan O'Clock. On Sunday evening, there's jazz again at the Green Room at 6 p.m. With Trillmann, consisting of Janning Truman on trombone, Fabian Willmann on tenor saxophone, Florian Herzog on double bass, and Eva Klesse on drums. So come by if you want to see it, but you do have to reserve a table before that. Maximum of 4 people can sit at one table, and from a maximum of 2 households. And you can reserve the table at www.stadtgarten.de. So now finally, without further ado, back to the green room where Akiko Ahrendt and Florian Zwißler are already playing. So enjoy. So that was Akiko Ahrendt on violin and Florian Zwißler with a little glimpse of what they're up to right now in the Green Room at Stadtgarten. So that was it from us tonight. If you would like to donate to the Cologne music scene, you can do this on www.culture-stream.cologne. Anything extra that you can give is very much appreciated. And thank you so much for watching this online magazine. Stay healthy and all the best from Cologne.